Welcome to Made to Build, the HIA podcast. We're here at the National Conference for the HIA 2025 here in Melbourne. Here's the recording studio where we're going to be interviewing a variety of guests, people who are specialists in what they do, where they can actually share their expertise and their knowledge. Let's get into it. Now, Owen, today here at the HIA conference, we've got a ripper of an opportunity. We've got two guests that I'm really excited to speak to. We have the national presidents from the HIA, past and present, and I believe that we've just witnessed the changing of the baton. In fact, it's a world exclusive on Made to Build. We are going to witness the passing of the baton between Debbie Johnson, the most recent HIA president, and Ian Hazan, the new HIA president. Guys, welcome to Made to Build. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's fantastic news. Now, I understand that, Ian, you've just taken the baton. It was only yesterday you came to be?
Correct. Precisely at about 4 o'clock. It was meant to be 3:30, so I was a bit dark on Debbie for taking half an hour out of my presidency so early. But it's been less than 12 hours, and it's been very, very exciting.
Fantastic. No, that's really good. Can I just start, just for builders who are listening to the podcast, I might start with you, Debbie, if that's okay. What's the role that the president plays at the HIA, just to help builders understand what that features?
Well, the president of the association actually chairs the national board, but it's also the face of the industry. We have an amazing team of people work for HIA, but the president is out there as the face of the association. We are members first and foremost.
Yes, championing. Yeah, fantastic. And in your time, over the last 2 years when you've been in that role, what are the challenges that you've seen, that you've worked through, and also the achievements that you're really proud of in your time?
I think the challenges for us is we're in this industry because we love what we do, and a lot of that has been taken away with the frustration of trying to service the community who are our customers and trying to deliver a product that they can afford and to finance. Yes. And to supply the demand that's out there. So, everything about building is delivering the dream for people, in trying to achieve that first home or that second home for them. And we're just as frustrated as they are in trying to be able to manage that process.
And as both directors of your own building businesses, you're seeing this in the marketplace every day, I imagine.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Look, the association is a grassroots member association. Yeah. So prior to becoming president, we've spent up to 10, 12 years at a regional level on the regional committees and regional presidents. So this is a culmination at a national level, but we have come through the association, as all our other members do, with a passion for our industry and being able to do what we do and provide homes for Australians.
Yeah. And just in terms of your vision, Ian, for what the things that you're looking forward to seeing play out over the next couple of years, where do you see it going in terms of the way that you work with the organisation and members to actually develop that focus?
We've been around now for 80 years, and we've traditionally been there to support our members and our builders to build homes, and we have always tended to be responding to other people's needs and narrative, be it government or social or the like. I think there's a real opportunity for us now to take a bit of control of that narrative. I think we've got to start thinking differently and understand that the builder is only part of a process, but the one that's most critical in the middle, because we actually do the delivery. So for me, it's about changing the way we think. It's about us as builders understanding the accountability and the responsibility we have in delivering good homes, but also letting people know that we are part of the solution, but we're not the solution.
Yep. I know it's been less than 12 hours, but how do you plan on implementing this going forward?
Implementation, I think, it's probably not something that's going to happen overnight. If we start looking at the language and we start speaking to tomorrow's decision makers, it's going to go a long way to assist us. So we've got to hustle while we wait and keep doing what we're doing day to day now. But I'd like to look at what we can put out to tomorrow's decision makers that will impact us in the future. So as an example, Simon Croft told us that government in the latest election are adopting policy that we've had out there for up to 9 years.
Wow. Yep.
And it's only now that it's being adopted. So we've got to understand that there's no necessarily immediate action,
Yep.
but it's a long-term dealing with skills, dealing with bringing people into the industry, making sure that builders or people want to be builders.
Yep.
So, Debbie, as an industry veteran, what advice would you give to Ian moving forward in implementing different visions?
We've got two roles. I think first and foremost, we have to support our members who are the subcontractors, the suppliers and the builders in this industry and the professionals that are our members and involved. We've got to support them in their businesses. I suppose the second part is the advocacy that we perform on their behalf with government and with that audience that we are privileged to have with government, the policy makers. But it's so important that we support our members and not make them do more than they're supposed to do. You know, they're entitled to do 1 home, 10 homes or 1,000 homes a year. That's their choice in business. And we need to support them in that journey and enable them to do that within the regulations safely, but most importantly, profitably, because it's not a hobby, it's a business. So our role as an industry-based association is firstly supporting those members, but then as an industry association, working with the power brokers to try and service Australians more broadly in delivering our product. So it's an interesting balance that we have.
So would your overarching message be that Ian, moving forward, has to look after the little guy as much as the big guy in the industry?
The big guy actually has some resources of their own and they align themselves with the industry association as they should.
Yep.
It's the smaller players that really need our assistance. And we've got a unique opportunity now following the federal election where this government really has all the cards if they want to deliver some real policy changes. And I mean, this is our area. Delivering homes is our area. They would be foolish not to work closely with us and work with us on some of the policy solutions that we have to deliver more housing.
Yeah, now, so you guys are both natural leaders. So you're leaders both in HIA and also within your own businesses.
Yes.
What are three things so builders listening to this, what are three things or three questions they could ask themselves about discovering the leader within themselves?
The reality is if someone's embarked on starting a business, they've got it within themselves. They've made a decision and they're actually taking action.
Yep.
So one is using the resources that are around, be it an association, be it mentors, be it other people that have done it before, so that you're not necessarily learning on the go, but you understand what you need to know and how to deal with it. I think it's important to remember that we're actually building homes, and if we're building quality homes and delivering on what the clients want or the homeowners want, that's our first and foremost goal. Like my message to my supervisors is make the client happy.
Yeah.
And each client has their own, what makes them happy item. It could be the painting, it could be the lighting, it could be the function. So first and foremost, understand the customer and understand what it is that we do. It is very much a team effort. So it's all about people, it's about communication, and it's about having a plan.
Yep, absolutely. And Deb, can I?
Yes, I was just going to say, having a plan, you've got to work with purpose, you've got to walk with purpose for that matter, but I think if you're organised and you have a plan of where you're going, people just fall in. People don't want to think too hard and, you know, they expect you to be showing the direction. So, I mean, we don't do everything ourselves. We rely heavily on our team in the office and on site.
Yeah.
But they rely on us to be organised and have direction,
Yes.
you know. That's where we come into it. Yeah.
We had a guest, Luke Callery from Callery Building, who came on board, and he talked about when he was growing his business, which is something that happens, for every builder every day. And he talked about new level, new devil. So in other words, for every time that his business grew a little bit, he had to slay a new devil. Whatever that may have been. It may have been about, team culture. It may have been about quality of the work and that sort of thing. So are you guys okay just to reflect upon that journey for yourselves just for a moment? And in your own businesses, if that's okay?
So I'll jump in. So I've had my business nearly 40 years, and I started very small, and as we all do. And I think the first year I made $10,000.
Is that as a builder?
That was as a building designer initially, right? And $10,000 is not enough to live on, but even 40 years ago, it still wasn't a lot. But I doubled my income year on year. But key to my being able to stay in business over that time is my passion for what I do. I absolutely love this industry and always have. And I have been involved in everything that I possibly could, that places like HIA and other organisations have delivered. Any survey, any sort of conference, any involvement I could get into, I was there. It's a bit like loving a sport, or having any passion. My passion has always been this industry. And I've learnt so much from the people that I've been involved with along that journey. It's not just the delivery of the conference material, it's the people at the conference with you, but it comes from a place of pure passion.
Yeah. So passion is the driver.
Well, for me it is.
Yeah.
I took a non-traditional path into becoming a builder. I was at university, I did a Bachelor of Science Engineering, but I ended up working, my first job was with a small builder. And on my reflection now, what I learned there was about project management. And a lot of that's got to do with time and money. And in this case, it was about building. It could be any project, but it was about building. I then went and worked for one of the volume builders, and that was more about running a business that happened to be in building. And it was all about business processes, it was all about systems. So just because you're a good technician and you're good at your trade, you've got the capacity, you've obviously got the smarts to be able to start a business, but running a business is more than just building a home. Because as you scale up, other things come into play, and it's about really understanding that you may be a great trade, but the minute you embark on a building company and as you start to grow, you may not have the skills or the experience in other areas, and you need to go and find them.
Yep. Did you ever learn a lesson the hard way?
Don't we all?
Building's not easy.
Yeah.
So we're always learning the hard way. And one of the other messages I give you, you always need to celebrate the wins, because there's so many pitfalls along the way. If you've got a budget that you weren't able to hit, or the trade was booked in and suddenly couldn't turn up on site. Projects run over time and budget, which is typical. So you're managing all of that. In terms of one major pitfall is estimating. Your money or your return on a project is often decided from your estimating. It's very difficult to make your margins up on the variations and the like, which is often heard of. I see variations as protecting your margin, but you need to accept that if you're not estimating properly at the outset and signing your contracts at the right price, then you're always going to be behind the eight ball.
Yep.
So I did have one job where we priced it. We thought we could do it in a smarter way, and it's the only project that I didn't actually lose money on it, but I didn't make any. It was a literal break even.
Yep.
And that was a learning experience.
Yeah.
What was your solution moving forward from that?
So for me is managing the risk was understanding what I'm pricing. So as an estimator, you could price anything, building a car, building a plane. In this case, we're building homes. So if you understand the labour and the components that go into whatever it is you're estimating, then your estimate's going to be a lot more reflective. I set myself a exit strategy. I say, if I was to do it, there might be 10 different ways of doing it, but I'll choose one that I think is valid and I'll price on that basis. So at least I know, at worst case scenario, that's the way I can do it and I've got an appropriate price for it. And then the old adage, manage the pennies and the pounds take care of themselves. So it is being very hands-on at all the levels and all procurement, be it trade or supply.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with that. Trying to estimate a project and deliver it, particularly in this climate. A lot of builders, myself included, don't employ all the trades as employees. They're subcontractors running their own business. So they don't have to show up and deliver for you. You know, so that's where we rely on relationships and build on those relationships. That's how we build a team. And then your various subcontractors get used to the other parts of your team, and they know you're an organised, reliable team to play for, and that they will get paid and they will get looked after. So that takes time to build up. I got to say, in the first 3 homes I built, I did lose money, and I think sometimes it's those lessons in life that really set you up for you dig in.
Definitely.
You dig in or you go out.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And but I learnt so much about the technical side of things because I too didn't come through as a tradesperson. I came through from a design.
So you had that extra layer of risk that you had to manage.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And so nothing hurts as much as losing money.
I always say it costs to learn. So you're either paying to go to university or paying someone to teach you. You may be working for someone and have a clunker and they're paying for you to learn. And if you're working for yourself, the person who's paying is yourself.
Yeah.
So it's important to reflect on it as a learning experience and adapting from that and moving forward and definitely not continue
And
doing the same thing.
I think being honest with yourself about what your skills and strengths are, and then looking for those people to complement your skill set, and recognise excellence in others, and you know, and their weaknesses, so you can sort of dovetail together. So you can say, well, I can help you, and you can help me, and we're going to, you know, build on that. And that's a relationship with all of your trades and suppliers. You know, it's looking at that relationship.
Ian, on the back of your own hardships, which we've just spoken about, builders working through challenges now, as a new HIA president, how can you offer to help them move through these challenges that they're facing in the current industry?
The important thing here is, you know, and I've got all these adages I've collected along the way, but you know, the definition, I was told, the definition of a genius is someone who's done it before. So if you can leverage the experience, so speak to people, speak to others, don't be embarrassed if you feel like you don't know or you've got an issue, because we are a small industry and everybody's prepared to help. So it's about going to the trade nights or joining an association and just speaking to people who have been there before, and they will tell you how they've either dealt with it because they've experienced it in the past, or what are potential steps to avoid. So, you know, as an example, a designer and a client will take up to 12 months to design their home. So by the time that's complete, they come to the builder and they're eager to get going. They'll give you 4 weeks to price it. So you're often better known for what you say no to than what you say yes to. Take the time you need to do what you need to do to adequately price it, because that will allow you to price it properly. So not only are you minimising your risk, but you're going to deliver a much better product for your client. So it's about understanding who you are, what your vision is, and what you're prepared to say no to.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to say, yes, we need the jobs, I've got to keep work in the door, but you may take that job on and realise after 12 months you've made no money. So it really is about speaking and getting not even so much advice, just talking in, because you don't know what you don't know. And getting that information from those who have come before you.
Many builders just put their head down and they just go. Would you say it's crucial for them to have a willingness to be open to new ideas and learn from other people who've done it before?
Of course. I mean, my motivation in joining HIA back in 2005 is when I left the large organisation that I was working for, around the table was a sales manager, an OH&S manager, a land manager, a construction manager. I was tapped into information in the changing environment of the industry. And I knew when I went out on my own, I could easily become that sort of mushroom in a corner. So on a personal level, I like information. I like to learn and develop myself, but also like to give back. And hence I reached out to the then HIA president to see how I could get involved with the HIA so that I was being fed information and had a resource to be able to ask questions as opposed to just being in my own little box.
Yeah, so you actually generated the resources, or you stimulated the resources so you could actually reach out and get the information that you needed.
Correct.
You're proactive.
We're time poor.
Yeah.
So you make time for what you need to do, but as a builder, there's always something to do. This forced me to take that time out because I was attending a committee meeting. And in being there, I was given the information. So it's about setting up processes within your daily life to give you what you want and also what you need, be it gym or, in this case, information and being part of the association.
Yeah. Just wonder if I could go in a slightly different direction now and just talk a little bit about advocacy for the industry. And what do you see as being the key things where you're looking to advocate for the industry and interests of builders? What are the highlights of that for you going forward?
From an advocacy point, we're often responding to the changes that are put upon us. So I see it as a bit like a tug of war. The builder's in the middle who actually is building the home. On one side, you've got a client. They've got certain needs, which might be number of rooms, size of house and the like. But then they've also got a number of wants. Their desires in terms of level of finish, quality, amenity, is it a pool or not a pool? We need to balance up and ensure that we provide a quality home for them at an affordable price. But on the opposite side, we're dealing with a lot of regulators, and I don't say that in a bad way, that are looking to improve and better the industry. So it might be from an occupational health and safety point of view. It might be from a regulatory point of view, a compliance point of view with the national construction codes. I'd like to get to the point where it's not about minimum standards, but it's about being the best we can be.
Yeah.
Now, there's a cost associated with that, and invariably, as we put the costs on, we end up moving back to minimum standards. So this is not just a builder or something the HIA can address. It's something that we need to look at as a whole to understand that the end result is building homes, and the builder is part of it. And how do we look at that whole continuum in terms of skills? How do we bring people in? If we pass all the risk onto the builders, which is essentially just the apportionment, which is we're protecting consumers, the builder carries all the risk, the developer saying we want the builders to carry all the risk. So it might be contractual. Who would want to be a builder? And if it's not, if we're not making money, we're unlikely to attract. So part of it is looking at how do we make sure that it's a sustainable industry.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's almost like when you describe it in that way, it's almost like you've got a really small hole for a whole lot of pressurized water to go through, and the builder is that really fine hole, because what's happening is that you've got a whole lot of risk that the builder is being asked to manage, and the only way that the builder can manage that is by putting up their prices. But that's something that the market isn't comfortable with, because we've seen massive price inflation over the last 5 years, especially. So it's an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
It is, and then more to it is, we've just had a productivity commission report. The homes we build today are very different to the homes we built 30 years ago. 30 years ago, it was about a roof over our heads. The progress claims were base, frame, lock-up, fix, completion. They're not the homes we're building today. We used to put one batten holder per room as light. Today we've got 4 or 5 downlights per room. Invariably, that's going to take longer for the electrician to put in. So part of it is what we're including. Part of it is, whereas we used to be able to use one person to put up a truss, today we need scaffold and 3 people. So it's just an observation. It's not criticism. How we build, what we build is different. That might be the new normal. And then the question isn't how do we get back to the hours that we used to build at? How do we improve on what the number of hours it's taking today?
Debbie, I've just got a question for you. In your time, in your role as National President over the last couple of years, what have been the toughest challenges that you've worked on and had to overcome?
I think I've had the opportunity to go right around Australia and speak with members in all sectors of our industry, which has been given me an amazing insight. And I guess it's a frustration that I see in their trying to do their day-to-day business and keep up with the changes in legislation. We've had some really tricky changes in the National Building Code that really affect all of us. And it's the opportunity for them to understand and learn and digest and implement those changes on the run when they're frantically trying to build homes.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yes, and for them to, it's balancing their cash flow after a very busy COVID period where a lot of people honoured contracts that those builders lost money on. And they fulfilled those commitments because it's a lawful requirement for them to do so. So while their customers experienced property growth, they delivered their fixed price contract for that price and copped the loss at their own personal expense. So they are now in trying to recoup those profits and build their businesses up again. And it's that's a big enough challenge in itself. But then we've had a lot of these changes through the National Construction Code. So having, walking that walk along with them and then seeing them as a representative of the industry and looking at what we can do as an industry body to assist. They're the challenges. It's just seeing some of that personal anguish, I suppose. Yeah. And I guess, too, seeing people that do love what they do feel disappointed with what they're, able to do under the circumstances.
Yep.
Yeah.
On the back of that, Ian, you're the new HIA president, right? Everybody's looking to you for answers and solutions. Debbie, what advice would you give to him moving forward, whether it be personal, business, just anything you can offer to him?
Ian and I have been on a journey through HIA and through this industry together for many years. In fact, you were president of Victoria at the same time as I was president in Queensland. So I'm quite confident that Ian's got the tool set to deliver for us as our national president.
Yeah.
And Ian will do it differently to me. He won't do it better or worse, he'll do it differently. And I think that's the unique opportunity that this role brings. It's a 2-year gig. And you go your hardest and you do your best, and each one of us brings something different to the role. But I have full confidence in Ian.
I definitely see it not as me as president. I might be driving the bus, but it's a we. We don't necessarily have all the answers, but it's about us throwing the balls in the air and asking the questions and working out the best way forward for our association, for our members and for our industry.
Guys, I want to say thank you for spending the time, because I've really enjoyed spending the time with you and just hearing your thoughts on leadership and learning and all that sort of thing, because there's a very hard way to learn and there's not an easy way to learn, but an easier way to learn.
Definitely.
And so thank you for sharing that with us. And Ian, I really want to, Bowen and I both want to wish you well for your role over the next 2 years as National President. I hope it goes really well.
Thank you.
And Debbie, thank you for joining us and being a part of the transition and the handover. So it's an exclusive on Made to Build. So thank you for enabling us to do it.
Before we go, perhaps the epitome of our podcasting career so far.
Yeah,
Does that suggest we might be invited back?
Maybe. I think so.
I look forward.
I think so.
I'll put my hand up.
There's a lot of wisdom here. No, there is. There's a huge amount of wisdom, so I really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
If people want to reach out to you, I think the best move is through the HIA and contact you in that way. So that'd be really good.
They know how to track us down, believe me.
Absolutely.
Or through the socials.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you so
guys.
much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm overly caffeinated and I'm full of more questions than I have answers for. We're in the right place here today to get as much information and as much knowledge out of all these wonderful people, Dean Backman included.
Indeed.
Nice to be here, guys.
Dean, your backstory is a really good one. So you've achieved a hell of a lot for a young spring chicken like yourself.
Thanks, mate.
So you've got your own podcast that you do with Luke Callery, Build Insight. You're building 10-star homes. You've won Business of the Year in Victoria. Like you've achieved a lot.
Yeah, I probably don't sit back as much and actually take that in very often. I'm very go all the time, and I probably reach goals and already setting new ones. So I don't probably give myself enough credit to sit back and look at what we actually achieve. But yeah, thanks for calling me young, mate. I've definitely started my career with hair, and after 20 years in the industry, 15 years as a builder, and 4 daughters, I'm now hairless.
Yes.
So
For which reason?
probably building first off.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been down a few roads, and it's been a great journey. Like, I mean, you learn from failures more than anything, and I think that's what led me to Build Insight with Luke, with our journey there. Kicked off about 12 months ago. So yeah, it's nice. I'm in the hot seat today. Usually I'm behind the mic asking the questions. So it has been an awesome journey along that path, because we are getting education out there, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah.
Just quickly, we had Luke Callery on before. How are you two associated with each other?
Yeah, so we did some business coaching together. So it was on an online platform, and we had similar, I suppose, morals, and kicked it off really well at the start. So Darren, who's my brother and business partner with Backman Builders, Darren, Luke and myself, just kicked off a good friendship. We found Luke and myself a mutual interest in probably wanting to do a bit more with YouTube and recording of building, getting sort of our techniques and tips and tricks out there.
Yep.
And Luke had a bit of a experience with YouTube. He likes a bit of the off-road camping, four-wheel driving, and he had a channel already going. So I rang him one day, I think it was Christmas 2023, and I said, I've got an idea for a bit of a Australian building show channel. The podcast then wasn't really on the radar. And we kicked off from there. He'd actually had a name for something similar, and he said, you're not going to believe this. This has been on my mind as well.
Yep.
So, yeah, we just kicked it off last year, and it's been great. We've done some awesome things. We've been at the Bowens Expo last year and got the mics around and the videos out. So it was good fun.
Could I ask you, because one of the great things about hosting a podcast is that you meet some really amazing guests. With some of the things that you've learned in your podcast, Build Insight, what are some of the interesting things that have come out of it for you?
Yeah, a whole lot of things. I guess what we are trying to do is provide an array of conversations. So we might have people that might be interested in high performance construction and hear, building science people talk about, the health matters of building a home. For myself, really, where we get a lot of reward is if we've got builders on having a conversation, and then we might get people reaching out to us saying, I never thought about having a conversation with another builder. I was too scared to. I'm making these mistakes, and it's great to hear that everyone has learnt and made similar mistakes. Because let's face it, there's a lot of builders out there of recent years who have gone into liquidation, and we see some real sad stories. And, we're massive on getting out there, getting further education. We network with hundreds of builders around Australia, both Backman Builders and Build Insight. And realistically, by having conversations and sharing stories, a lot of them can be war stories, as we know, but hopefully we can help at least one more person maybe learn from that and not turn into a sad story.
So that's the media side of things. Backman Builders, what are you guys about? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we had a family background. I've come from 2 uncles who were builders, and my dad worked in the construction industry for most of his working life. So we it's in our blood, so to speak. Darren and myself, we're second generation. I've actually, just mentioning off there, I've got my oldest daughter's showing interest already to take over the business, I'm told. She's already telling our workers that I'm going to be your boss. So
good. Nice. I thought she was just your boss.
Yeah,
no.
she is. She definitely wears the boss belt at the moment. But look, at the end of the day, we've been really passionate about building quality homes. Over the years, that's developed from just building a really great home that plenty of people take note of throughout TV shows or the industry. For us now, our real concentration is building better. That's more from a health side of things and an energy efficiency side of things. And we do want to leave the industry in a better spot than we found it. So sustainability comes into play with types of materials. And for us, that a big part of what we do now compared to probably 5 years ago and earlier is just collaboration. It's so powerful. We'll talk about it a lot with Backman Builders, with our clients, and also Build Insight. But realistically, people need to collaborate to get the best design, understand what our clients want to build, and it's up to us to further educate our clients.
So when you talk about that collaboration, what does that look like? So if you were to talk about the steps that you go through, what's the ideal process for you?
So for us, it started with not tendering work any further, substantiated pre-construction process that we can come on in early. It might be that the clients have already got a designer and architect involved, but they'll bring the builder in as a part of that team really early to make sure that they're basically like this, sitting around a round table, having conversations about what's the budget, pardon me, what's the budget and how we can best, meet that, but also get the best out of it. We probably saw too often people coming to us with plans, council permits, all the documentation. You get a final quote back and it's blown the budget.
Yep.
So we want to stop that sort of broken cycle. And for us, we just get those early conversations.
Yeah.
To add on the back of that, we've moved from 5-star homes to 7-star homes now in the new NCC. Now you're Passive House certified and you've done 10-star builds. Can you elaborate on that for us?
Yeah. So I think it's easy to start because, Owen, you're probably similar to me. We've saw 6 stars for a long time in Australia. I did come in and experience 5 stars early days, and there wasn't a huge jump between 5 and 6. Between 6 and 7, there has been a big jump, and there's been a lot of scariness to it. People have gone, how do I get there? So again, collaboration actually comes in here even with 7 stars. It's not jumped to 10 at the moment. So our NCC now requires us to meet 7 stars energy rating of the Nat HERS assessment. So what we're sort of really needing to take in board is orientation of a home, what appliances we're using.
What do you mean by orientation?
So we want to get that north-facing orientation to use the sun's energy as much as we can. That also, cooler months, we're in Victoria here and we build in cold climate in the Macedon Ranges. We're a 7-star climate zone 7, and we probably get 7-8 months of really cold weather.
Yep.
So good orientation might mean that we're actually getting the solar arrays from the sun, getting some natural warmth in our cooler months. If we're south-facing, we're obviously not getting that to our advantage. So that's a big part of it. I think there's a confusion there that we'll hook up a water tank and put a solar system on and we'll be fine.
Yeah, sure.
It's not enough anymore.
It's a more sophisticated solution than that.
Definitely.
That leads into something that I think some of the people listening to this will really benefit, or builders listening to this would be keen to know. There are different kinds of vernacular about stars, and so there's 7 stars, there's 10 stars, there's also sustainable building, there's certified passive house. There's sort of almost a competing scale that plays out there. Are you able to just sort of step us through the layers there? Because there are multiple versions of the truth at the moment. It feels like that.
Yeah, and look, 7 stars is our minimum requirement. If you're not meeting that, you're not, in most cases, unless you've got an exemption for maybe an existing house in a tight suburb block or something like that, if you're not building 7 stars, you're not meeting the minimum requirements of the NCC. A 10-star home is the top of a Nat HERS rating. That's kind of from a Nat HERS rating for energy assessment. That's our top sort of marker. What you will find is if you've got builders and designers, architects in the industry who are concentrated on passive house, sustainable building, where we are looking at building to the climate, which is passive house is more building to your specific client. So a cold climate might need thicker walls, bulked insulation. A lot of the cases in our climate, triple glazed windows. Nat HERS rating would take in, if you're in New South Wales, Owen, Queensland, WA, it's not necessarily specific to that climate. It's more looking at same wall types that we'd probably seen from chippies and growing through that stage. It's normal. This normal construction mechanisms are a 90mm frame, whereas what we're doing with a lot of our builds is 140mm frame to get an R4 insulation in to just build that bit better. And that allows us we're quickly finding we're building better than the minimum required 7 stars.
Yes. So is that by choice or is that because you have to?
I suppose when you go down the rabbit hole, mate, of especially passive house and building better, you quite quickly learn that we're building what we know, not necessarily what is better for the climate and for the home. The 10-star home that we recently completed in Kyneton in central Victoria, That was on a bigger parcel of land, so orientation was quite easy to get. The designer on board there also had passive house principal training and so forth, so he knew, and his team, where to kind of design, how to reach a high standard. So the other thing that we take into consideration now with passive houses, we do blower door tests to see what our air changes are. So for that home there, we actually reached passive house air tightness, which is 0.6 air changes an hour or lower, which actually boosted it from 9.3 stars to 10 stars.
Okay.
And on top of that, I think we're about 8.3 stars. We've put in triple glazing and it pushed it up a star. So, obviously, if a client didn't want to spend that extra money, they still would have had an amazing 8.3 star home.
Yes.
So you said 0.6 airtightness, is that correct?
Yep.
For reference, what's a normal home?
Look, they say a lot of the homes in Australia standard would be around 10 air changes an hour, although we've been into old homes that are quite leaky that you can't even get a number reading on, so they're pushing into 30-odd air changes.
10 would be the standard in the industry?
That's kind of where they're gauging it at the moment.
And you're at 0.6?
At 0.6, yeah.
Okay.
So to say
impressive.
that's the volume of the home,
Yeah.
that air basically being exchanged in that house, the volume, 10 times an hour. So it's quite a bit,
huge.
and that's why we're seeing energy bills are so high in this country. So there's a lot of talk about getting off gas. For some people, they don't want to, and that's fine. But it is getting increasingly easier to make your house less drafty.
Yep.
And in essence, we're making it more healthy.
So presumably a lot of the client base that you would be working for as somebody who's a builder who's focused on sustainable building, the client base that you're building for, I expect they would be fairly educated about what they want, or their designer may have educated them, and so they're actually coming to you with a set of expectations that are reasonably well informed. But I imagine they would also understand that this also comes with a cost to the wallet as well, for good reason.
Yeah, believe it or not, there's a real mix, guys. It's I guess it goes back to what we do with our socials as well. It's sort of where passion led to jump into building site with. We went away from just posting photos of a finished home and started getting behind the scenes things on there. So we started seeing a bit of a trend that we get higher numbers on hits on our socials if we've got frame photos in there and techniques of how we're building things.
Would you say that's because when you built a 10-star home, you can't really see what makes it a 10-star home?
Yeah, and this goes before that. This is going back, a few years ago when we were getting passive house trained. But realistically, we understand now the marketing of our business is if we're putting out what the types of things that we want to do and the things we want to educate, we are drawing in people to go, well, I've never thought about that before. I want to talk to this builder and see and learn more.
Yeah.
We even had a sustainable open home day a couple of weeks ago for a finished project, and we had people travel from around Victoria to come to it, and even people in their 60s just saying, thanks for the content you put out. I've learnt so much.
That's awesome.
So, that's rewarding when you get to do that. For us, it's not about numbers. I don't care how many followers we got. I don't care how many likes we get. If we can get one person and say they've learnt something, then job done.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I think one of the things about sustainable building is that the average punter, when they look at a house, they're not going to look at a house and go, oh, I can see the value. So going to your point, Owen, that you can't see the value, although the average punter can't see it. So it's very much a case of needing to educate people as you go. So what advice would you have for builders who are looking at this space in terms of convincing the prospects that this is a good way to go? Because it's not something you can't demonstrate it. You can't see it.
Look, I think there's people out there who care more about the aesthetics, and we always use the terminology talking about stone bench tops, for example. You want to go get a marble bench top, but the budget, they won't want to spend more on something that's going to make the performance of the house better. Yeah. We really encourage our clients to just concentrate on what's the most important parts of the build that are the non-negotiables. And when they come to us, we have our minimums that we want to put in there. So we can talk about 7 stars and stuff. One of the most important things for us is we know water management in building is our biggest number one priority.
Is that keeping out water, you mean?
Keeping out water. So not just a matter of our roof and flashings. We obviously want to use a really high quality, durable, weather-resistive barrier. And for us, that minimum is ProClimber, because that's a tested, superior product that we knows where it's the taping, the flashings, it's going to protect the project for a long period of time, making it a durable structure. So for us, these things, if a client comes to us and says, we don't want to spend that, we would rather have our marble bench tops, and that's all I can afford in a budget. Well, reality is we might have to turn that client away because they're not our client. And that's okay. I think there's a bit of worry in the industry that if I say, oh, I don't want to do this, I might lose a client. Maybe that's okay. Maybe they're not your fit. And I think that's a big part of what we're seeing.
That's part of qualifying the client.
Yeah, definitely. It goes back to, collaborating with a pre-construction system that's in place. And if you've got people listening to this, there's some really great parts out there. I know, Richard, we've met through ProCalc before, using that as, I suppose, pre-quoting parts to give people a budget. Also going into some builders groups. Like, we're a part of Future Builder, who's a coaching group that got about 100 builders in place. So we're all networking to find out what's this guy doing and what's this girl doing? How can we bring it together, and how can I improve my business? It's really powerful.
Yeah, I mean, and you touched on this before. It's often that builders tend not to talk. They're not open channels, especially about their pricing and margins, but outside of that as well. So being part of a forum is actually a really powerful thing.
Yeah, mate, I reckon the first probably 7-8 years of my career, you would walk past a builder in the street and you'd be like looking the other way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you're like, oh, that's my competitor. Yeah. Whereas now for us, we actually will reach out, whether it's on Instagram or I've probably got a phone book worth of builders' numbers around the place. That even last night, there was something I wanted to have a chat with about a system we want to bring into our building software that I know another builder's done a good job on. So I'm going to have a Zoom with him next week, and he's going to open his portal and we're going to go through it. Yeah. So that's the sharing involved where you learn.
Okay, look, we're getting the wind up, so I've just got one more question that I just want to ask, and that is that for builders who are listening to this that are interested in sustainable building and getting better at that, what's some advice you could give them to the journey forward? Yeah,
well, listen to some podcasts, maybe this one and the Build Insight podcast. No, definitely don't feel that a question's a silly question. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Yep. If you don't know something, the best thing is to put your hand up and ask it. Yep. There's plenty of people doing open homes, plenty of people that will encourage you to come down and come to an expo, have a look at some new products, some new systems. Yep. And sometimes you might need to actually invest in something in your business, whether it's using a wrap you've never used before or, ventilation system you've never used before. Speak to suppliers, speak to reps, speak to other builders and professionals in the trades.
Fantastic. And Dean, if people want to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best course?
Yeah, so Backman Builders, our building company, just at Backman Builders on Instagram. We've got www.backmanbuilders.com.au. And with Build Insight on Instagram, we are build.insight, which is INSITE. We've also got the website, which is www.buildinsight.com.au.
That's awesome, mate.
You put me under pressure. I'm used to asking that question too, mate. So awesome.
No, fantastic. Thank you for coming on, mate. We've learned quite a bit, so I really appreciate your time. Thanks,
gents, for having me. Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you for coming on.
Now, and our next guest on Made to Build is
another great one.
Ripper, is the 2024 HIA Apprentice of the Year, Oliver Burnell. Oliver, welcome.
G'day. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure, mate. Now, your story is a really unique one, and I think an awesome one. It's quite inspiring. You were at the age of 28, and just tell me if I get this wrong, but at the age of 28, you were studying accounting or working as an accountant?
Yeah, no, I'm actually 28 now. Okay. I would have been about 22 starting my apprenticeship. So okay. After school, I went to uni and did accounting and finance.
Okay.
And some changes in my life meant that, and changes in the world really with COVID meant that some of my plans changed.
Yes.
And I ended up doing a bit of labouring for Ronald Young and Co-Builders in Hobart. And I was lucky enough to be offered an apprenticeship with them. Awesome. And the rest is history. Growing up, my father was a carpenter, and he then became a builder. my grandfather was a concreter, so I'd sort of always been around
It's in the
building
blood.
sites. And yeah, it is in the blood a little bit. So I sort of always wanted to do something involved in construction. My brother
Yep.
now works for the same company as well, so it really is in the blood for us. But
Would you say it's a family-oriented thing that you guys do, where like everyone's kind of in the industry,
yeah,
and you're just
yeah.
tagging along with that?
absolutely, yeah. So yeah, I guess so. So it's been good. But yeah, going through school, I actually did quite well in school, and my school's probably not going to like me saying this, but we were told that you don't go for a trade if you do well in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of for the guys who struggle in school. And I think schools are starting to turn around now and go, oh,
Absolutely.
maybe sending everyone down the university path isn't the way to go. But I was certainly sort of told that, oh no, don't waste your time, don't ruin your body going and doing a trade. Go to uni and do a proper job.
Because I found that for myself, where people kind of look down on a trade going like, oh, why would you do that if you're getting such and such marks?
I think it's turned around a lot from sort of talking to people in schools and teachers now. I think they've sort of, even in the last 5 years, sort of since COVID, sort of seen the value of a trade and workers. So
It's a different scenario nowadays. So when you finish school, if you go to uni, you finish up, you come out of it with a HECS debt of tens of thousands of dollars versus doing a trade where you can actually pick up a pretty decent wage.
yeah,
For somebody who's at the start of their career. So
Yeah.
it's the economics of it have changed massively, and I think the job market seems to have changed massively as well. Have you seen that?
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing with that HECS debt, and they don't tell you about this at school or even when you're going through uni, is it really actually starts to hurt you when you go for things like home loans and stuff like that. So I'm at that age where my partner and I have bought a block and we're trying to build a house, and we've both got a HECS debt.
Yes.
So there's, and they don't tell you about that. Whereas I've got friends that sort of left school and started an apprenticeship, whether they left school early or whether they finished their matric years, whether they started at uni and dropped out, but they've been qualified builders, plumbers, electricians, and they've got a fair bit of savings behind them, and very limited or little to no HECS debt. So yeah, that's always like this year when I've sort of been asked by people like uni versus a trade. I've sort of, and I'm not anti-uni at all. I had a great time at uni. I really value the skills and the knowledge I got from uni. But people need to weigh that all the options up really.
Yeah, and that transition that you went through, so going from studying accounting to doing the labouring on site, and that transition. So for you, mentally and emotionally, I imagine that was a bit of a journey where you're sort of finding what the right way was for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I got pretty lucky with the time frame of everything as well. Just when I finished uni, COVID then hit, when I had plans to go travelling. And yeah, like I feel like I was in the right place at the right time, and my life was in the right place at the right time.
So would you say that whilst the country is at this existential low, everyone's locked inside, you've gone and started a trade and it's given you a lot of purpose?
Yeah, for sure.
feeling?
And I know around Australia, a lot of people weren't so lucky, but we missed one day of work in the 3 years that COVID affected Australia.
Yeah.
So to be outside and being outside as well was a big thing during COVID. Like a lot of people who were obviously in offices, they couldn't go to work. But seeing we were outside, we obviously had to take precautions, but we were able to still work, if you know what I mean.
So Oliver, can I just ask you, what before you got into the industry, did you have any misconceptions that sort of became apparent to you once you spent some time in it?
Yeah, so I guess like I spoke about before, a lot of people think that it's a dumb person's game to go and get a trade, and that if you don't do well at school or you're struggling, you should just go and do an apprenticeship. So I guess that's a big misconception that you actually have to be very smart. Like the smartest people I better not twist my words here, but there are some incredibly smart people on site that to get our houses built, and houses and buildings all around the world. So
So would you say it seems simple on the outside, but it's actually not?
Yeah.
When you do it?
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think if you could easily just sit back and work for someone else, but you really need to think outside the box if you're by yourself, and that challenging yourself, think outside the box to really extend yourself. So, yeah. Sorry, I haven't really answered that real well, but I guess another misconception was that, Hobart winters, you probably don't want to be out in the cold all the time, but it's not actually that bad. You work hard, you warm yourself up.
Work ethic.
Yeah,
Work
work
ethic. Work hard, warm up.
Shorts all year for me, so
Yeah.
Now, I heard a story that apparently your face was on a billboard in the middle of Times Square in New York. Is that true?
Yeah, I have had a few of my mates give me a bit of stick for that, and I'm certainly no good at Photoshop. So, yeah, the HIA of I think one of their partners or sponsors has a billboard in New York. So, yeah, I was up there next to Jennifer Lopez.
Mate.
Did you get to meet Jennifer Lopez?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. My partner actually said after we got back from Cairns last year at the awards, she said, the HIA better send us to New York to check out your billboard then. But
No, that's great, mate. So look, well, I think you are the most famous person I've ever sat next to.
I doubt it.
No, that's great.
I'm just from little old Hobart.
You touched on before how you've won a HIA Apprentice of the Year award. What did that look like for you, getting to that award?
Yeah, so it was a bit of a surprise, really. I think I was nominated very late for the Tasmanian Awards.
So is that in your first, second, third, or fourth year?
It was in my fourth year. To be honest, we didn't even it was sprung upon our company from the HIA Tasmanian rep that we should put someone in. And so that was fantastic just to win the Tasmanian one. There are a lot of different trades and a lot of different guys from across Tasmania, guys and girls, sorry, I should specify. And so it was a huge honour just to win the Tasmanian one.
I know when you submit yourself to the awards, you have to go through and you have to somewhat profile yourself, what you've done, what you can do, what your vision is, what are your goals. Yeah. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so before the Tasmanian Awards, there were 2 or 3 face-to-face interviews at HIA Tasmania headquarters. So that was a little bit nerve-wracking, not really knowing what you were going to be asked and sort of how you present yourself. Walking away from that, you sort of give it your best shot, but you don't really know where it lands. And then before the National Awards, it was a Zoom call, and that one was actually a bit more intimidating because you weren't actually you were asked the question and you weren't given any real feedback. You were just filmed and that was it. Yeah. So you didn't know whether you'd answered the question or if you'd sort of missed the point of the question. And so that was quite hard to walk away from. But yeah.
On the back of that,
must have held myself in pretty good stead.
What separates you from all the other people that enter it? Because a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And it's an achievement in itself to win that award.
So after, especially after meeting the National Apprentice finalists last year, so from all around Australia, they were the best in their state. It certainly was none of us knew who it was going to be. There was no clear thing. I personally think I did my Cert 4 through the HIA during my last year of my apprenticeship, and I think that sort of stood me in pretty good stead. I don't think anyone else had really done that. maybe done some more training in other places. Cert 4 was a pretty full-on certificate, and to do that while doing my Cert 4 and doing other stuff in my life, it was quite a full-on year.
What are you most experienced in on site? Like, what's the day-to-day like looking for you?
So we do everything from framing the houses, doing timber floors, eaves, cladding, fit-outs, final fits, decks. So in Tassie, like our carpenters do quite a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I probably haven't done as much concreting as mainland carpenters do, but in Tassie we sort of, and particularly the company I work for, we get concreters in. We do a lot of framing, we do a lot of trusses, do a fair bit of cladding, lots of fit-outs.
So you'd say the diverse skill set that you have is what separates you from most carpenters?
Yeah, for sure.
Because typically speaking, people just frame, they just fix, they just clad.
Yeah, no, and I guess it's a different way that Tasmanian carpenters and the way our business is set up is that our carpenters do everything rather than just frame or just fit out or just do cladding, like part of a cladding team. So,
What are the sorts of things that you believe, as an older apprentice, you sort of brought to the table for Ronald Young and Co?
Yeah, so obviously first there's the maturity aspect. I don't think as an 18-year-old I would have been able to work alongside with an older working demographic. I think it would be quite hard being 17, 18, straight out of school and going to work with people who have been in the workforce for 20, 30 years, if you know what I mean. So I guess there's that maturity and that work ethic that I've had to build through part-time jobs at uni and going to uni. There's also that a bit more knowledge. Like I know in my case, doing accounting and finance, like carpentry is a heavily mathematic trade. Yeah. And having those couple of years just running numbers through my head, I think quite helped me.
So you actually were able to transfer some of those skills from the original track over to the new path that you were taking?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of hard to pinpoint how, but I mean, I always knew that, like when I was halfway through my accounting degree and just deciding that it probably wasn't for me, I always wanted to finish to get that degree. But I sort of always knew that I wanted to do something else. And accounting, even if it's just in your daily life, I thought applied across the board, but it definitely applies to building and carpentry.
To people who are unsure and they're in that awkward spot where they're finishing year 12 and they don't know whether they're going to do a trade, they don't know what they're going to do at uni. Yeah. There's a real level of uncertainty. What would you say to them, having done a bit of both?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because a lot of people go and do their gap year or they do this to try and find themselves or they do a year of part-time.
Not going to find yourself on holidays in Hawaii.
No, that's exactly right. And that's
okay to try, wouldn't it?
No, you can try.
Yeah. Everyone's got their different opinions about it, but and to this day, I still think that if you have a break for that long, you're gonna find it very hard to get back in a rhythm. And I mean, a lot of people go and do it, and they are very successful at doing it. But
so you're, in your opinion, take the momentum that you've carried out of school.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that also if you're going into a trade, like it doesn't just have to be uni or doing anything else, but if you're going into a trade, I think that studying skills will help you through. There still is a fair bit of bookwork you have to do. There's a fair bit of organisation you have to do, and if you've had a couple of years off, it's going to be hard to sort of get back into that rhythm of the 9 to 5 or more in a trade case like 6:30 to 4.
And for those who are thinking of, sort of weighing up those sorts of options and making a transition into the building industry, what are the things about the building industry that you feel are, the plus, the pros that will actually, that reward them for actually becoming a part of the industry?
Yeah, well, I've always said that it's incredible that a tradesman is able to work on their own house if they want to. Like whether that's building it, renovating it. If you've got the skills to work on your own house, it's incredibly rewarding. Whether it's doing your front fence or replacing this, building a deck. So I think that's incredibly rewarding. I think it's rewarding helping other people experience their dreams as well. Like we're a residential builder focusing on people sort of building their first, second, third, fourth houses. Not the real high-end stuff, but just people who it might be the first house they'll ever, their first house they'll ever own, and it might be the only house they ever own. And so they're just so incredibly grateful for what we've done for them. And so that's incredibly rewarding.
So would you say your point in the market is providing affordability as well as like a family-oriented company? And
yeah, for sure,
build?
for sure. We're only a small company. We've been working in Tasmania for, I think, 56 years now.
Whereabouts in Tasmania?
Hobart.
Hobart?
Yeah.
Okay. So if people want to find out more about you, where can they go to find out more about you?
Yeah, so Ronald Young and Co-Builders on Facebook or www.rybuilders.com.au.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
Oliver, it's been great having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us, mate. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us down here in Melbourne at the National Conference, the HIA. You're listening to Made to Build, and we'll see you next time.